This is Kyle Smith with Hagerty, and today we're going through everything you need to know when building spark plug wires for your classic car. So what we have here is just a standard kit for building your own spark plug wires. There's a couple things you need to keep in mind when picking out a kit like this. When you go to your local auto parts store, you're going to need to know not only how many cylinders your engine has, but also what style boots that you need. So this is the end that actually attaches to the spark plug, and you can see it's a standard straight boot. Now, keeping in mind that there is a 90-degree boot, and then also some even have just a standard angle, you'll want to make sure that you can clear your exhaust, you can clear any accessories that you need, and they're not in the way. Oftentimes, duplicating what you have from the factory is the best recommendation. However, if you're looking at a custom application, you might have to use a coat hanger or something to figure out exactly what's going to fit. This is a kit for a 4-cylinder, so we have 4 spark plug wires coiled up here. We have our coil wire sitting here off to the side. You can tell because it does not have ends on it. So we have all the pieces here that we're going to crimp on to actually complete the terminals. We also have all of the boots that we're going to need. And you can see we have 2 styles here that are available, and this is something that some kits will have only 1 style, some kits will have 2, and this is what actually clips onto the distributor cap. So we have a 90-degree and a straight on. Depending on what you have clearance for or what style you like the best is what you're going to use. So what we're looking at here is a little bit of a specialty tool, but it is something that you can work without if you absolutely need to, but it's something I highly recommend. And that is, it's a stripping tool here on the end, and you can see as I close the jaws, it'll pull it apart. And so that's going to pull the wire stripping off and then leave just the core. And then down here in the handle, it has a couple specialty crimping pieces that are going to make this job nice and easy and a little bit more accurate for us. These are fairly affordable. I recommend having one in your toolbox if you're doing much automotive wiring at all. But again, it is something that you can get by without if you absolutely need to. The other is just a standard pair of side cutters. And this makes quick work of shortening wires down to the correct length that you need. Again, if you only have the standard automotive wiring pliers, you can cut with those, but these usually give you just a little bit more leverage, make it a little bit easier. So we'll go ahead and pull one wire off the stack, and you can see that what we're working with here has the spark plug end on one side and then has no end on the other. And this is what we're going to be attaching our terminal to. In working with this, you'll first want to start out on the vehicle. Now in this case, we don't have a car that we're working on specifically, so we don't have a specific measurement. This is a little bit more general information. So you'll want to go over, attach this to your spark plug, and then actually measure out to the distributor cap and mark your wire where you're actually going to need the length to be. Be sure to give yourself just a little bit of extra room so they're not stretched tight in that engine compartment. Give yourself about 5/8, ½ inch to 5/8 extra to make sure that it's not tight, and then you'll strip off 5/8 from that. So it'll give you the perfect length every time. So what I'll do is I'll mark the wire at 19 inches with just a little mark here that allows me to know exactly where I'm going to be cutting that. And then what I'll do is just use my side cutters and cut that one all the way through. And sometimes it takes a little bit of a second cut as well, but you'll want to make sure you can see it crushes it a little bit. If you make a partial cut or most of the way through in one direction and then finish the cut by turning the wire 90 degrees, that will help prevent that dreaded smashed up wire that you're going to get. So we're going to use the end of the pliers here to actually strip it, and we're pretty well maxing out the capacity of a plier like this in using it to strip a spark plug wire. However, what I've found, or kind of a nice tip, is to put a good bit of pressure on each of the jaws, pressing down this way as you apply the force, and it'll bite in just that extra little bit that'll help it. So you can see there, broke nice and clean on the first try. Then I can remove the end here and bring it out of the pliers. You'll see that there's still this little tiny bit of black insulation that exists on there, so I will need to go ahead and use those pliers again, or sometimes even just a razor blade to score right around that and pull that off. So let's try doing it again with the pliers itself. See if we can get it to pull. Looks like we got it there. So left a little bit here on the sides, but looks like we should be all right when that folds over. We're going to have plenty of contact area. So as we're stripping off the wires, I thought we would take just a moment to discuss exactly what's going on inside of each plug wire. So I stripped a good bit off of the coil wire that we're working on, since it's exactly the same, so I can show you guys what's going on inside. Here we have the exterior black finish, and then you can see all of this white bit that is just inside of that is all insulation, and also has radio shielding so it doesn't interfere with your radio. Sometimes when you're looking at classic cars, a lot of people will complain about radio noise, and it'll sound almost like pinballs hitting inside of the car. And that's actually due to the cylinders firing and its radio interference coming from the spark plug wires to the radio. It's something that's fairly unique to classic cars. Most modern cars have it sorted out, but on classic, especially AM radios, that can cause you a problem. Now you can see on this one, it's almost kind of a fiberglass-like material, and it is safe for me to touch. But depending on what type of wire you're working with, if it's a higher performance wire, you're going to have something a little bit different than this. It really varies depending on the manufacturer of the wire and what the resistance is per foot. So with something like this, we've got fairly foldable, easy to work with inside there, but we do need to remove this little bit of black casing on that wire we just stripped before we're able to crimp on our terminal connector. So now we've got our wire stripped, and you can see our conductor is exposed. What we're actually going to do is prep the terminal to get pressed on. Now, depending on the type of terminal that you're using, depends on how much work you're going to have to put into it. With this is an affordable kit, and it's really not that high quality, so you can tell already that it doesn't hold the wire very tightly, and so it's going to be a little bit hard to work with as I'm putting this together. So my first step, and what I'll usually do, is use the very bottom anvil of these pliers to just bring that in just a little bit tighter. You can see it's not a whole lot of movement there. But what that allows me to do is then, as I fold that wire back and slide the entire piece of insulation in, it now holds in place. And that gives me the ability to not need a third hand as I crimp this together. So what we use is the very bottom piece of the pliers. It has an anvil that's going to close that up just a little bit for us. And you'll see, get the crimp started. So there on the first one, you can see it started to curl each side in just a little bit and hold the wire just a little tighter. And then the next anvil down has a spike here on the back, which is going to put pressure right where that conductor wire folded under, and then a U shape here on this side, which is going to bring both sides in together again. So you'll see I'll line it up, then give it a good bit of pressure, and then that's going to be nice and tight. So you can see right there on the back where it crimped in nice and strong, right where the conductor is, and then here we've got two jaws pinched in nice and tight, so that wire's not going to go anywhere. So the next thing we'll need to do, while you could probably just stick this directly into your distributor cap and it would work, it's not something I would recommend, because it does leave that open to moisture or any debris that's flying around your engine compartment, and that will slowly corrode and you'll end up with ignition trouble. So they make specific boots for that. It's included in your kit, but of course, it never fits quite that well, so what I always recommend is just a little dab of dielectric grease here on the end, and then just coat the connector with it a little bit, and it'll slide right on and make sure that everything works smoothly. So let's put that dab of grease on there. Our kit actually came with a small amount of it. It really doesn't look like much, but just a little bit of this does go a long way. So in looking at this one, we'll just tear off the top and then work it down to the end. On this one, what I like to do is put just a little bit on the edge of the connector, and then use my finger to swipe just a little bit inside of that connector, and then also on the terminal itself. This will help in preventing that terminal from corroding inside the distributor cap, and will make it just a little bit easier to get on. So then we'll push that cap right on. Usually takes a good bit of force, but they'll go together. There we go. You can see I can move that out and adjust it to how far it needs to sit into the distributor cap, depending. So there you go. Now you've got a completed spark plug wire. Go try it out on the car and make sure it fits. If you really want to go the extra step, and this is something I recommend, especially when you're building your first couple sets, that is to actually take your multimeter and test continuity between the tip of this connector and inside the spark plug boot, and that will make sure that you know this wire is good before it goes on the car, so you don't end up putting all your new spark plug wires on only to have a miss, or worse, the car not run at all because you've crimped them incorrectly. This will give you this chance to solve the problem before you have everything installed back on the car. Thank you for watching. Hope you found this video informative. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. If you'd like a detailed list of the parts used in this episode, look in the description below.